Told you, President Donald Trump tweeting that the U.S.-Canada border temporarily closed to non-essential traffic. And we'll bring in Peter Wagner right now, live in Ferndale. How's it going down there today?
Well, good morning, Thor. Things here are very quiet, of course. Many people in the community are following the governor's order to stay away from businesses, to stay inside. But this news is quite something. I was just talking to you off the air that up until all this happened, I was commuting across the border every day for work. I live here in Northwest Washington. I work for News 1130 in Vancouver. And every day I would drive by the Peace Arch. And inside the arch, there are these wrought iron gates that are essentially welded to the arch. And they say, may these gates never be closed. So certainly today's news from Donald Trump, unprecedented, and it's going to have huge impacts on these communities here. But I tell you, Thor, I just can't stop thinking about that line because today the gates are closed.
They didn't have the pandemic in mind when they wrote that. Here's the tweet that Donald Trump put out just a little while ago. I love his use of exclamation point there at the end, too. Details to follow. But it's classic Trump. But, I mean, this is the big news right now. So they are canceling non-essential traffic. And just, Peter, give us a sense down there. You're in Ferndale, but we're seeing all this imagery of the restaurants closed in Seattle, the businesses taking a hit, much like we're seeing here. What's the general sentiment of people down there dealing with all these closures and cancellations?
Well, just for context, for people who might not know where Ferndale is, we're about halfway between the border and Bellingham, kind of tucked up against the Nooksack River. A very small town, and it's lots of restaurants. I actually went downtown yesterday just to kind of see how things are, and things are extremely quiet around here. The streets are very much devoid of cars. One thing I will say, though, is I'm seeing a lot more folks out walking with their dogs. They're out walking with their families. There are certainly a lot more people enjoying the beautiful weather we've had, but I think right now it's very much a wait-and-see approach. The governor has been very clear every time he's spoken about this, that things are changing minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. And so I think people here are just getting accustomed to this new normal, like I'm getting used to this new normal of talking to you from my kitchen instead of from, well, right there on West 2nd.
Of course, yeah. And can you give us an update on the latest death toll and the number of cases in Washington state?
Yeah, the DOH is updating us daily. We now have more than 1,000 confirmed cases in Washington state, and the death toll has risen. There are now 52 deaths statewide. Just in terms of the local context, Whatcom County is the county that touches the Metro Vancouver area. This is the Bellinghams, the Blaines, the Lindens. Right now, county health authorities are reporting 6 cases, and that number is up from yesterday.
Now, Seattle is notable as well when it comes to testing because they actually have a drive-through coronavirus testing site, and it's just another way to make it more accessible for people who obviously want to get screened. And this is the big issue right now, screenings. We got to make sure that this is all getting clamped down, whatever city you're in.
Well, exactly. In fact, yesterday I talked to the CEO of a local chain of clinics who was saying that our lack of testing is keeping us from actually knowing the full scope of how many people in Washington state might be sick. These drive-through testing, like the one put together by University of Washington Medicine, sort of a first of its kind in Washington. This has been talked about all over, and there are some places that are doing this as a way to say we really need to be able to meet people where they are and make it easier for them to get tested. We've all heard those reports of people calling the phone numbers and then being told to go somewhere else, and then the person they call next doesn't know where to go. So things like this, I think, will make it a lot easier for people to be able to get tested, and then the more the more we know, then we have an actual sense of what the scope of this outbreak is in Washington state.
And the other thing we're looking at is a potential vaccine. Scientists in Seattle right now, they're starting a potential COVID-19 vaccine study. The Kaiser Permanente Washington Health Research Institute in Seattle. What can you tell us about that as we wrap things up?
Well, I can tell you that the woman who was the very first person to be given that test vaccine said that her teenagers thought she was pretty cool for doing it. But her motivation, I thought, was interesting, too. She said, I was feeling helpless. She told the AP, I feel helpless, and I just wanted to do something to help. But, of course, with a trial vaccine, experts are always saying it could be 12 to 18 months before something could be readily available for the public.
Amazing, Peter. Thank you so much, and I hope we can connect with you in the days to come.
Thanks, Thor.
All right, take care. Stay safe down there. Peter Wagner from News 1130 in Ferndale, Washington. We'll go over to